People bring up so much this idea of this is the way the world was supposed to be, whether it be about eating, whether it be about working out, whether it be about asking questions. But in theory, I think it's a really interesting question, because look to the children. Anything that you imagine, somebody has an argument about this is either how we used to do it or this is how the world was designed to be. And I guess it can depend on whether your religion and what you think about humans and their inception. Children have such a sense of wonder, and they ask very specific questions, and they do things that they want to just because they can, and they are this idea of just being, right? Rather than having to justify everything that they do in the world, they just kind of are. And as we teach them that there are rules to living in this world, that you cannot do this if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're black, if you're white, if you're whatever, they learn to satisfy other people's needs. They learn to progress in the world. They learn to do what they need to do to survive. At the end of the day, we are just a vacation and survival machines, and we love to make rules for ourselves. I think the best way that we might have to see what the world had to offer to us initially perhaps is the children, perhaps is how they act, if they climb trees, if they hunt for food, what they see around them. And I know it's really hard to get this raw instant of somebody candidly, because the second you're out of the womb, you're seeing things, you're feeling things, you're experiencing things, and even when you're inside the womb, you're still experiencing things. But I think you get a lot more moments like that when you're a child than when you're an adult. When you're an adult, you don't really get these moments, right? You try to capture them on camera, but they never come naturally unless you really forget that you're recording and something really funny happened, which might happen to you, 5 times in your life. But for children, it happens a lot more than it happens to us. And they have these natural moments of intuition about them, right? When I was a little child and I was very tech inclined, I went up to an airport sign that had ads that rotated, and I tried to zoom into one of them by doing this pinch motion, and I'd never seen an iPhone in my life before, and it didn't work. And I remember I was shocked, and that was a moment of intuition that this scrolling thing maybe is innate in us, that this swipe to refresh thing maybe is innate in us. You go back up to the top where it came from, and you'll see if there's more new stuff. If scrolling down works, scrolling up might work too. Maybe if we have a test called like the child test, when you're designing a software and you give it to a child and you see if they can figure it out, then you know that people aren't going to get it wrong. And I mean, not that you have to teach them. Obviously, if it's very complex, you have to teach them whatever. But if it's something simple that you think should be just a gesture, something like the F key, something like the E key. For example, the QWERTY keyboard, what is that? And I'm saying that while I know the origin. I'm saying when you're a child, that's not intuitive at all. That doesn't make sense. But we just kept it for history, and that's okay. For example, Nintendo does a great job with the child test. They love making their games very easy, accessible. The motion controls are super intuitive, right? When you're playing tennis, you hit this way and that way for each respective shot that shows up on the screen the way it's supposed to. It just makes sense. And when you're using AirDrop, devices that are on just show up, and the ones that are off just don't. And if you have other settings like share with everyone, then everybody's devices that also have share to everyone settings turn on. Before, to reset your iMac, you had to go into recovery mode and delete everything and reinstall macOS, if I remember properly. It was crazy. It was so much work. And on every phone, you could just hit reset, and it would ask you a warning 3 times, but you would just click reset. I'd like to take another moment of gratitude. It's really beautiful out today as well. Every day when I go outside, I just remember the lucky that I have to be to go outside whenever I want at my own will and do whatever I want outside. To have this time period in my life where I get to have a break. And I would like to share that with you too, wherever you are, whether you have a break or not. It's really hard to go through with things that have abstract rewards because your brain isn't really used to that. You weren't made for that. The reward should always be food or shelter or water or something that needs to be so that we can keep living. And when you can't see the reward, it becomes so hard to motivate yourself, but that's on purpose, right? That was the whole point. If you're a human and you're hungry and you want food, why would you chase something that isn't food? It then just becomes pure common sense that if you're in a grocery store and you're hungry, you're gonna buy a lot of things. At the end of the day, we succumb to human nature, but I don't think of it as succumbing, because we're not failing anything if there isn't anything to begin with. Without human nature, there's nothing to fail, there's nothing to be. And if there isn't anything to be, then how are we gonna fail that thing that there is to be, right? It's a circular argument. And so rather than accepting the failures of the human condition, I would rather accept all the parts of the human condition that make us humans in the first place. This has gone very existential, but no matter how you think we were created, we have these parts of us that us, ourselves, and self-introspection wish were different about ourselves. And I think that's a little silly. Sorry, I had to get a song up. Peak song. Anyway, my thesis is just that you should follow yourself. You should try to cultivate these childlike moments of yourself. Not only the moments of wonder, which is what we classically associate with it, the ones that just come out of you without you meaning to, without a filter, when you forget you're being filmed, when you forget what's going on, when you forget the thing that you have to remember to be filtered. That's when you're most yourself. Who cares if you see someone you know? Who cares if someone you know sees you? So they don't like you being free? That's on them for not being free, right? If you've ever had a dance party singing to your favorite song in your living room, you know that self-expression brings us true, genuine joy. It doesn't matter if nobody's watching, it doesn't matter if you're not filming it, it doesn't matter if you are. Something about expressing yourself in the rawest, truest form makes you the happiest person alive for just a second. Makes you feel so good about yourself. And honestly, those moments can often only happen when there's nobody around to see them. But when somebody does, that's one of the most intimate things that you can have somebody watch you do, and your relationship will grow stronger. But yeah, I'll see you soon. I'm gonna get home before it gets dark, so